3, 2, 1, go.
All right. So just wanted to welcome everybody from Whippley here. We've got Woody Adams, our product specialist, who's going to present a high level of point of sale for you. If at any time you're working with a customer and you need some additional help in regards to a demo one-on-one with your customer, Woody can help with that. He can get some basic information in regards to what they might need in regards to their business, and he can even put some of that into the system when he's demoing it for you. So if you have questions, feel free to ask. I think everybody here is live. We're not doing so. If at any time, feel free to chime in. On the screen's my contact information, a way to get in touch with me. And if you need access to Woody, feel free to ping me and I can get Woody to help you. And with that, we'll turn it over to Woody.
Definitely. And it works great with the conference rooms because you guys can just, put yourself on mute, and then there's no echo, and, you can kind of make fun of me as I'm going through the presentation, and I'll never know. And then, of course, when you need to ask a question, just unmute yourself. And feel free to do it at any time. I can actually see the chat when I'm in product. Okay, so we'll be kind of flipping back and forth. So hopefully this is helpful, and we are recording it for the other locations or other people that might want to see it. So point of sale, QuickBooks, we're going to look at, its reason for being, obviously it's been around, I think, for 10 years. So we're on version 10. And if you think of a retail environment, you have the storefront. I mean, I know we have something for the website, and it's merchant service for web store with the QuickBooks, but really I'm talking here at the storefront with people that have registers, computers as registers, and maybe even a back office computer. And the goal of point of sale is to manage inventory and customers and vendors and basically your retail stuff. And it's so the employees aren't in the financial software. Okay, the security in point of sale is far better than desktop QuickBooks, even enterprise, and that would be more akin to a retail environment. And so we'll look at security as well and things that affect employees. But basically we're going to be looking at ringing up sales and the items. But I also want to touch on really the installation and best practice setup for point of sale because it's much different and more sophisticated than QuickBooks Financial. And we will look at the financial exchange and the end of day, but financial exchange can be done at any time during the day. And I will touch a little bit on multi-store. Okay, so point of sale, you can have up to 20 registers at a store and then up to 20 stores. Right, so I know it used to be 10 a few years ago, but I think starting with version 9, version 8, we upped it to 20. And then, of course, with version 8 and above, you have the ability to send employee time over to QuickBooks. So there's some nice integration. For example, you can create an invoice in QuickBooks from point of sale if you take payment on account, and of course send a bill over there, when you receive things on a voucher. So let's take a look at that. Ideal store types, apparel, furniture. Basically everything on this list is ideal here. And you guys can have the PowerPoint after because it has some good screenshot and visual pictures of the point of sale network environment, if you will, and installation. Perhaps something that's not on here is restaurants. Again, we're not ideal for the restaurant. We do have an add-on for restaurants. It's a web-based point-of-sale system. It used to be called Halo. I'm not really sure what the name is now, but we actually call it QuickBooks Point-of-Sale for Restaurants. So if you do have that, that is something that will work and integrate with QuickBooks Financial as well. However, I know even Jeff has a client that has a small coffee shop, sandwich shop, that's using our point-of-sale. And it's just a couple computers, and the kitchen's really close to the counter, so it's really easy for them. But if you can imagine why it wouldn't be a good fit at a restaurant, if you can imagine a bunch of waitresses huddling around, or waiters, I should say, wait staff, okay, huddling around, the huge kind of console they have with their restaurant software. It's just, with point of sale, it's just for something really busy at a restaurant, it's just not built for that, and that's why. So it just depends on how much traffic the restaurant gets. But other than that, all of these here, if someone wants to track inventory, it's more sophisticated inventory tracking than QuickBooks Financial. For example, you can actually break assemblies, okay, or build them. I mean, you can build them in Premier and Enterprise. You can't break them. So, and things like that. And UPC codes, barcode scanning, as well as images, which I know is new this year for Enterprise 12 and the Inventory Center. But point of sale has been able to attach up to 2 images, or I think 1 now, sorry, for each item as well. And there's several other things we'll look at when we get to the item list. So the type of point-of-sale client, two main clients we're getting now, and you guys probably have these types of clients, either opening up or have recently opened a retail store. They need a full inventory tracking system. They need good security for employees, even maybe forcing your employees to sign in after each sale. Okay. Track and manage customers and their buying habits. So we have email campaigns as well as a rewards program, customer ID cards, right, you can print out, and a smooth, efficient way to ring up sales, take payment, take returns, exchanges, some reporting, and then scalable to match as the business grows. So again, up to 20 lanes or registers at a store, and then up to 20 stores. Now, or others are switching from another POS solution, maybe more affordable, something that actually has a real-time financial exchange with QuickBooks data. So the exchange is very important because point of sale is going to take over all the item quantities. Any kind of item activity is going to be in point of sale. No longer will you do that in QuickBooks. So if they already have a QuickBooks file with items and everything and accurate quantities, after the first exchange, point of sale kind of takes all over that. It's rather tyrannical, but we want that, okay? And real-time access to data, software that's easy to learn, easy to use, and it's also, and I have a few slides on this, payments integrated with merchant services. So like 40% of purchases now are credit card purchases. So point-of-sale merchant services would have that. Not only does it integrate with point-of-sale software, but it actually makes the bank reconciliation QuickBooks that much easier because it goes over with the financial exchange. Right? You can send over the credit card payment for the day. Right? And they show up in your undeposited funds with a Visa or MasterCard, whatever. So all that's very important. And there's even we have hardware, right? So the hardware bundle with the software. So the hardware comes with receipt printer, cash drawer, barcode scanner, and credit card reader. You could also purchase a PDA or the inventory scanner, which literally scans inventory when you're doing physical counts, and you can dock it. It'll update the point-of-sale item list, the existing items. It doesn't add new ones, but updates the existing ones. And there's also the debit credit machine you can purchase. So you could actually, you do a debit card as a payment method, and then you can give cash back. So things like that. So it's very much for retail environment. And there's always a question, well, if you have like a distributorship and you're tossed between enterprise or point of sale, they have a register, but really more of it is invoicing, sales orders, invoicing, and receiving payments, and I would probably suggest enterprise. However, if they really have a lot of registers, things like that, because I can do a customer order in point of sale. There are non-posting transactions, much like in QuickBooks Financial. I would really, then suggest point of sale for that situation. So that sometimes you have those consulting gigs, and feel free to email Jeff or myself if you're not sure. And like you said, we'll be happy to do a demo either on enterprise or point of sale. Low cost of ownership as well. So let's first talk about best practice setup in the actual point of sale environment, because I'm sure that you guys will go out and install QuickBooks for your clients, Pro, Premier, Enterprise, and you're used to that. It's pretty simple. It doesn't really matter where the data file is, right? You can install it locally. The file could be somewhere else. That's fine as long as you can get to it. Point of sale, however, there really has to be a POS server station, which we call Workstation 1, or WS1. That station houses the data file. I'm not moving the POS database file to some out on the server. It has to be on Workstation 1. That is very different from the QuickBooks Financial setup. The point-of-sale Workstation 1, that server is the only one that does a financial exchange with QuickBooks, so it's ideal if QuickBooks is installed on the same computer. Always suggest that. It's not that you have to do it that way. I pretend you have to do it that way. Let's put it that way. Way too many that ways there. The remote data sharing is a little utility. You could also do it so you could have QuickBooks on some other box and you have POS Workstation 1, up front or something. But really, we always encourage people to have QuickBooks and Point of Sale Workstation 1 on the same computer. It just makes a financial exchange that much easier. Literally, you're just clicking a button. And it must always be running for any workstation to use Point of Sale. The computer does, not Point of Sale on that server computer. Then the client workstation, you just get the program files. It installs there, and as soon as it installs on there, it's going to ask you to register and then immediately look for Point of Sale Workstation 1. If you have separate licenses in one store, the Workstation 1 is going to suck up all of them into one umbrella license. Suck up being a technical term, of course. And then, or you could always purchase a multi-seat license, if you will. So that's the importance of a POS Server workstation. So when you guys go out to do these installations, it's important to have like a checklist. Maybe you have a little one or none at all for regular QuickBooks because you've done it for so long. But if you're new to point of sale, you might want to add a couple, 3 hours to the engagement just to make sure you hedge it a little, because notoriously something will happen. Maybe they don't have their network set up. Hopefully they do. It's always ideal to have the IT person there, unless you have one from Wipfli that can go out with you to make sure everything's going well. And you're going to actually start on the server station. And that's where you're going to set up the file and spend all that time, do the exchange with QuickBooks, and then go ahead and install the client workstations. When you put the CD in, and it kind of breaks it down. There's a couple forks in the road, works pretty well. It asks you, is this for only this computer or 2 or more computers? So when you click 2 or more computers, if there are 2 or more in the environment, it'll then ask you if it's a server, workstation, or client. So you have 1 server per store, that's POS Workstation 1, that's where the POS file is, and up to 19 client workstations, which just have the program. So the client workstation is going to be out front, that's where the employees are. It is not a user license. Good. Not like QuickBooks Financial. It's a workstation license. It doesn't matter how many employees, summer, seasonal help, whatever, are at that 1 or 2 workstations, okay? They can sign in, great security for that. We'll go over that soon. So a little different from QuickBooks Financial in this setup, and it's good to have a checklist. Now, Kathy, would POS work for a client that is hosting their QuickBooks with Right Networks? If QuickBooks is installed on Workstation 1, and as long as they can access the file, then the Workstation 1 should still be able to find it. So you should be okay. POS Server versus clients, again, so only 1 server workstation allowed. You install, this is the best practice. And by the way, when you install POS, or I can send this to you, there's a nice 40, 45-page guideline. I got a lot of these screenshots out of there. I think it was created back in 8.0 by Leslie Cappuccetti, who's kind of the point-of-sale guru in the United States anywhere, maybe the world, or one of them. There's several. I mean, you guys might have one there at Wipfli or one to be. I mean, some people will just do their first installation or a couple, and they'll just really take it on. They just love it because it's a lot more exciting than QuickBooks, okay? And I can say that fairly because I love QuickBooks too. So same version level required at all workstations. So I can't have POS Basic at 1 and Pro at the other, okay? And they're at the same year, and okay, so version 10, and that's always a question we get. And then, obviously start with the server workstation and then install the other client workstations one at a time to give them a chance to find Mama Bear. If you have a bunch of people there and they're just throwing CDs in, they're all going to try to race to find, workstation 1. So just do it, take your time, one at a time. And server workstation must always be running. Okay, we already covered that, but point of sale doesn't need to be open. So that's kind of the setup, if you can imagine that in your head. And I have a slide at the end which actually does a multi-store picture. But if you understand a single store, then really you'll get multi-store, because each store is going to have a POS Workstation 1 with its own POS database file and however many client stations there are for the cash registers. There's only 1 QuickBooks file in a multi-store environment, ideally, okay? And you use class tracking. Well, it uses class tracking so you can run a P&L by store. Okay, and I'll show you that in the preferences. By the way, multi-store is just included in Point of Sale Pro now, and I will show you the key differences between Basic and Pro. And we have a POS free product, but forgive me, I don't acknowledge it. Okay, so we're going to look at the navigator, making a sale and putting it on hold, purchase order, receiving, creating an invoice in QuickBooks from POS. Again, point of sale, you can't write a check. I mean, I can make a cash payout, right? Tracks that out of the drawer. You can't write a check. You're not making a journal entry. You're not doing typical accounting things. Really, it doesn't do any AR or accounts payable. However, you'll see that after I do my financial exchange at about 1:28 Central Standard Time today, you'll see the bill and the invoice over in the QuickBooks Financial product. And there's several different payment tender methods, and all this will look reasonable when I'm actually in the product. So let's go there now. Because you guys buy things, and so just imagine. It's funny though, when you start supporting point of sale, when you go actually to buying things, you'll start to look at their register and wonder what kind of point of sale product they have. So there's like a local food store here in McKinney, and the guy uses point of sale, so I'll sneak behind the counter, Okay, they don't allow me back. So here's the home page, I should say. Now some of you might have seen pre-version 10 point of sales and this looks radically different. I mean, this is very much a touchscreen more view. Point of Sale version 10, though, is more like a hybrid between version 9 or the older versions and 10, where we're trying to go, which is more touchscreen. I will point out windows, and I'll say this looks exactly like all the other document forms in Point of Sale version 9 and below, so that you know. If you have a client now that's on 7 or 8, and they love that view, I think they can still buy version 9, but going to version 10 is going to be quite a shock with the user interface. However, anybody can get used to it. But this is more like touchscreen printing. You just touch it, and we sell those in bundles too, and you can talk to Jeff about that. I think it's from HP, Make a Sale, etc. For example, the Make a Sale window, this is probably what's going to be up at all the workstations, and you can scan it in if you got barcode. We'll look at the item, and it'll show you the field for that. And we'll talk about item setup, because the last thing I want people to do is have to set up all their items at once, right? And we never do that, or one at a time. I mean, you want to do them in a batch. You want to do them all at once. So I'm going to show you how you do that when you're first setting up the file. But again, your customer information here, items, and then you have your payment tender method. So at the front workstations, this is probably the receipt they're going to have there all the time. Whereas in back, the person in back will, the admin or what have you, or owner is going to be looking at dashboards. I'll show you that too. And then maybe he's changing preferences or adding new items or changing prices or coming up with sales or discounts or using the print designer tool to add a logo to sales receipts, things like that. So you have your people up front, and then he's in the back. So typically we see that a lot. Or maybe you just have a client that has a one workstation environment. Fine. So this would be the server station, and QuickBooks would be installed on here too. So here's essential navigation. Now I'm going to go ahead and look at the item list first. And this is kind of the new view. And I'm going to edit an item. Just so you guys can see it, I have a computer shop. What I did is I took the sample company file from QuickBooks called, it's the retail with individualized sales. It's Carl's Computer Shop. And I did the financial exchange, and it asked me if I wanted to bring over the items. And you can actually bring over the items, and you can select the ones you want to bring over, but it's kind of a one-time thing. So there's another way to bring your items in, and I'll show you just after we go over the item window. So this item window is much different from the one in QuickBooks, right? This is a little more sophisticated. I do have similar types, non-inventory service, assembly group, or inventory. Most of them are going to be inventory, but I could do a labor or something like that. We have people using point of sale that do repair work as well. The only thing that's not on here really is a discount item, because you create those in a pricing manager tool, or other charge, or sales tax you won't see here. And we'll go over sales tax too, because it's more sophisticated in point of sale. Point of sale collects the sales tax, QuickBooks pays it. So I have the description. Here's the quantity on hand, average cost. It's an average cost system. There's no option for FIFO or LIFO. Enterprise 12 Advanced Inventory has a FIFO now, so does QBO Plus, but average cost for everybody else, including point of sale. UPC code, that's really going to be your 13-digit. I think it's 10 to 13 digits for the barcode scanning. So if I had a Coke around here with a little scanner, I could probably scan it in, had I my scanner. Then you guys would be able to see that. Literally, the scanners, it's like a plug and play. Really, and it's color-coded, the hardware. And there's a hardware setup wizard. So when you plug in the actual scanner, for instance, it'll find the software. And it's almost like a mouse, or you plug in your keyboard. It's the same kind of thing. So if I put my cursor, in the UPC code, I think it's still trying to install the software. And you just scan it. Still trying to find it. Well, we'll come back to that, but so we'll let it. It's still trying to install. Device software is successful. So it's just plug and play, and we actually have it color coded. So that kind of works well. So if I scan it, there's my number. Now that's a 13-digit one, 10 or 13, and I just scanned this empty Coke bottle they were giving away last week. So you can bring those in too in a very fast way. And so what I can do is just scan it as I'm selling it too, or receiving it in, if that's the UPC. If they actually do an alphanumeric one, they can use the ALU, which is the alternate lookup. Okay, so hopefully you guys saw that populate there in the UPC code. Also, I can have, notice when you do a preferred vendor in QuickBooks on an item, there's one. I can have 5, and they all have their different UPC code and cost. So this helps me determine who I'm going to buy from. Let me go back, save and next. There we go. back to edit. There are some rating and statistics. It gives me totals like you'd find in reports. And then, adjustments, things like that, what's been sold. For you guys, you'll like this. On the lower left, you see your accounts, COGS, merchandise sales, and inventory asset. It'll actually create this account in QuickBooks for you, as well as a POS adjustment account. Because it takes over the quantity for items, it does make, journal entry adjustments to inventory in QuickBooks, so you have the appropriate value for tax reasons, reporting, things like that. I can print tags. I can use serial numbers, both on receiving end or selling, which is also new in Enterprise 12 if you have advanced inventory, serial a lot. But you can use serial numbers here, and then earn rewards for customers as well as commission for employees. So there's quite a bit you can do with the item here. Now let's talk about bringing them in when you're first setting them up. So that's what the items look like. Under File, Utilities, and then Import, I can actually import inventory items, pictures, vendors, or customers using a default template that you created, or sorry, this is ours, custom file you created, a lot of people use this, or a vendor catalog when you're updating prices. So the default template essentially is in Excel, and you're just copying and pasting. Let me go ahead and open that up. There we go. Open import template, so you can see what it looks like. It has the first tab has a list of instructions, and then you have customers, vendors, and bring at least the vendors in when you bring the items in, because you want to have the vendor on the inventory. You don't want to be going back after the fact and editing, okay, each item. You want to do this in a batch. And because of this, or your own custom files, and I have a lot of point-of-sale the pro advisors that go out there, and they've been doing it a long time. So they started out using this template, but now they actually just build their own custom files. They just find it better. I don't know why. I should ask them. But anyway, either way you do it, I can copy paste in. Here's the item name, and it gives you descriptions, the department code. This can be blank, but the department cannot be. So all an item needs is an item or department name. But of course, you have all these other things: size, attribute, average cost, order cost, the vendors, retail price, UPC. This is the barcode scanning. Okay, maximum 18 characters. So maybe it's 13 to 18. I'm thinking. And then you have quantity by store as well. Oops, sorry about that. Going this way. You have all up to 20 stores. And then custom fields. You can get rid of some of these columns as well that you don't need. And then you just go ahead and import it in. You click Next, import it in, and it brings in your customers, vendors, and your items. Very fast way to set it up. Okay, so you might already have a document or a spreadsheet for this. Make sure it's clean. Bring it in. Make sure you're good. And then go ahead and import it. You can also update existing item prices that way in a batch. Fast way to do it. And you will get the Excel prompts. Do you want to duplicate the item? No. Do you want to update only items that have changed? And you want to choose that option, and there you will. Won't double up your list. And it prompts you to make a backup before, so it's pretty fail-safe. The backups in point of sale are done. You can schedule them, and it's really fail-safe. There's even one done at the end of the day, so you have it. So that way, if something happens, you can only you can always go back to that last day of data. Okay. Let's go ahead and, purchase order. Now, this looks like the old window, okay? All the old sales receipt, the old sales order, because point of sale does customer orders, does layaways, work orders, or sales orders, non-posting. You turn them into sales receipts. Again, there's no invoice or AR to speak of in point of sale, but if I charge a customer on account, it creates an invoice in QuickBooks. And you can receive the payment there or here and send a credit over. You just take payment on account, sends a credit, and you wipe it out in the customer payment window in QuickBooks. So I can choose a vendor here. Let's see here. I want to bring in a few other things, say Brad, and then choose many items. But this is kind of the old way. It's a little bland, but still a very effective window. I can statuses, which you can choose, and there are different statuses. And maybe I want to bring in, 180 gigabyte hard drives or other things as well. And then you have instructions, and these instructions will follow over to the receiving voucher. I can even make a cancel date, if you will. Okay? I think I can even go in here and scan my Coke bottle. It should put that one in. Yeah. So there's my 150 gigabytes. So the scanning is pretty cool, and I'll stop playing with that because I don't want to get off track. But you have terms here, payment due date. Again, how much of they also have a fulfilled percentage, which I like when you actually look at the purchase order list. And all the lists behave the same. I'll show you what I mean because you can really customize them. By the way, point of sale has a great customization opportunity. So for billable engagements for you guys. So why I say it's worthwhile when you go out, and some of you that have done POS setups before, you know what I'm talking about. It's always going to take you longer than you think. So when you go out there and you set it all up, maybe bill an hour or something into that for training, because there's so much stuff. It's a huge arena, and we're just doing an overview, but it's a big arena based on the workflow, and you can customize the list just by even on the transaction, customize the columns. What do they need to see? I mean, we don't want to just if there's too much stuff, it's not going to be fun for them. So make it simple for them, and yet thorough. Okay, and you can do that on all the lists as well. So here's my purchase order, and I go ahead and click Save Only, and I can go ahead and receive from a PO, and I have Brad here from today. Open up the PO, and there's want to menus. These are like right-click menus. I akin that to QuickBooks. Right-click, and there's a bunch of stuff when you're on a center or something. Or in a list. That want to menu does the same thing, and there's all these options that you would typically need to do. So I'm going to receive items, and it asks me to select all, but some might be back ordered, which it will track too, and I can copy my description over as well. And then it brings me to the voucher. Now look at the voucher, very different from the purchase order. That's what I mean by version 10 is like a hybrid between version 9 and version 10. Eventually it's all going to be like this, because again, we're encouraging the touchscreen things, because it just looks, these tabs are big enough for a touchscreen. So I think that is the design. And then with version 11, which is a 2012 product, which will be out at the end of February or so, late winter anyway, it should look a lot more like this for all the screens. Now, what about a bill? So I have the vendor name. I got my items there. I can add more on the fly. I can actually roll freight in if I want to, across the items. Very good. Can't do that in QuickBooks. Spread freight around. Now, I mean, outside of a workaround, whatever you guys do for that, but it's not meant, you're not doing that in QuickBooks Financial. In point of sale, you can. So invoice number, I have this, and then, I can select a date, and depending on my terms, it'll populate that. 90 days, come on, get reasonable here. Here we go. Let's do, I don't know, October 5th or something. And that's going to create a bill. When I save this new financial exchange, it's actually going to create a bill. So purchase order, not posting. Voucher, posting. This just affects inventory asset and quantity on hand for those, gigabyte strips. Okay, so that was receiving. Let me go back home. And by the way, you can switch to other open windows. Perhaps I want to make a sale, but first I would like to go back to home because I want to show you there are orders. So I have a sales order, layaway, work order for repair and stuff. Again, these look like the old method. So I can choose that I want to actually sell a couple of these things, and I could have scanned it in if I wanted to. Oops, I can remove this. This is the wrong one. And then again, you can quick type too. It'll find it as well. Much like in QuickBooks, I'll choose Jim here. Any instructions? This is non-posting, but this is where they put, I'm going to install the hard drives in his computer. I'm also going to set up the network, do this and that, all the instructions that Jim agrees to, and I can actually print out the sales order, and that's a document I give him. An associate or cashier, this would be good for sales commissions, as well as status, which you can update in the preferences, and we'll get there. I'm going to go ahead and save it for now. And now I can sell from an order, right, from the sales order. And there's Jim's from today. And then I go, I want to, and then sell items. Gives me a similar pop-up that we saw on the purchasing side. Select all, copy the notes over, or maybe, you're holding one back. It'll track the back order. Keep it open. And then now I'm on the sales receipt. Looks just like a voucher, except now we're on the happy side. Here are all the notes over here, and here are my payment tender options, cash, credit, debit, check, what have you. This is where the merchant services comes in handy, right? You click credit, it's going to go through the web, and it's just very quick to get approved, right? And that's what goes over to QuickBooks. In this case, we're going to do a check, ask me for a particular check number. You don't have to put it in. Now, there's a preference where I can choose to not accept checks for this customer, and that's actually in the customer record. And then I save, and I'll do the receipt so that you guys can kind of see what it looks like, typical receipt. And you can customize these with a logo and things like that. If there was a deposit taking, which by the way I can force that I get 10% deposit when they do the sales order or the work order, okay, it'll show there that I've already received that. Here are the notes on the receipt. So very functional. And then of course the email thing, marketing campaigns. Yes, you can email to their smartphone or not, depending on the setting. And we should look, before we go to preferences, let's go to the customer list. And then I'm going to edit Nicola here, and here's kind of what you can find on the customer record. Looks a lot like an item record, customer-specific things. It's okay to email them or not. Here, use with QuickBooks, yes. Charge account. Are they allowed a particular limit? What's their account balance? And you can view the customer in QuickBooks as well. If you want to see the customer center in QuickBooks, you just click that. Statistics here, their address, custom fields on items, customers, vendors, employees as well. You can report on them, and then history and customer notes. So we have all that there. I think that's pretty much it for customer, yeah. Vendors, even less stuff, but I can also track this customer as a company if they are. Okay, now I'm going to quickly update QuickBooks because I have them synced, and this is what the window looks like for that. Stuck on sales receipts and vouchers because I did one, and it'll tell me exactly, you know, what was sent over, right? And I can view the activity log. I could even actually go if I look at sales history, and you can hold sales too. If you're like at a convenience store or something, some people use convenience stores for this. It doesn't fully integrate with like a gas pump, but there are bridges for that. So we have 7-Elevens using our point of sale system, and they get a lot of traffic, so it still has the bandwidth. And let's see, where was I going with that though? I had a good value add or color, but I forgot. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so here's sale from today, and I can click this, and actually I want to, and show financial detail. And here's what went over to QuickBooks. Here's the journal entry for the item, how it affects cost of goods sold. Brings me right into QuickBooks, right? It affects cost of goods sold and inventory asset. And that's fun for you guys because I know you love that kind of stuff. And then here's the actual sales receipt in QuickBooks, and it shows what it is, okay? Now let's go through the preferences because those are key. So you can either go to QuickBooks and see it, or you can see it from the actual transaction or from the list. Again, whether you're on a sales history list or an item list or a customer list, or you're on a transaction, you have the ability to right-click the menu bar and choose Customize Columns. Only check off what they need. Keep it clean. The defaults are just way too many columns, I think. So start easy, start fresh. And again, this can all be built out in consulting because it's going to be, they're going to want you to train them on point of sales. That's not like with QuickBooks, but there's more stuff. There's much more stuff in here. They're going to want you to train them and match their workflow. So you charge for that. Preferences. And I can actually go right from here, by the way. We have the navigator, sticky notes, and then you can also customize the left-hand table of contents, if you will, by user. And we'll go over the security too. So company preferences, again, it's a big arena. And here's the preferences. The company preferences can only be affected on Workstation 1, POS Server machine. So for you guys, again, field labels, these are the custom fields you can turn on for customer, vendor, employee, and inventory. And then, of course, financial. So I'm connected to this file. Okay, so again, the company file can be somewhere else, but I have it installed, so that's how I found it. That's why I think it'll be okay if you're hosting QuickBooks. But I've never tested that. Okay, so, but I can check with I know the guy at Unidata, Bob Babcock, so I can email him. You can send receipts and vouchers over to QuickBooks with detail item descriptions or summary. Employee hours, send employee hours worked to, you know, QuickBooks using the payroll items, and this pulls in the payroll items from QuickBooks because of the integration. How do I want the customer to go over? Last name first, first name last. Here's the accounts better for you guys. These are the accounts by default. You can change them. Also, this is for item types, and here's for different fields in point of sale. Maybe I want cash and drawer to go to unpositive funds, so you can go ahead and find that on the list. This isn't really a sortable list, though. I can't sort it, so you just have to kind of look through it, but it gives me all the chart of accounts there. One thing to mention, this box down here, I wouldn't check it. This actually will create a sub-account on every sale. So it's really up to you if that's what you want. But I always choose to uncheck that one at the bottom. Merchant services, here's where you set it up. Very simple. Put in the merchant ID they get when they order it. Here's where they can allow cash back if they have a debit credit card machine. There's gift cards too with QuickBooks using our gift cards. The store might want to have their own gift cards. They can use theirs, but I think it costs more. Multi-store, here's where you set it up. I have 2 stores, 2 classes right now, and here's the store exchange method. I use the Intuit service, which goes through the server. So that's how, because each store has a POS database file, there's like a mailbag, if you will. You send at the end of the day. So the remote store sends it to headquarters, which processes it in and sends out, after they've changed things and updated prices and items, they send it back out to the remote stores by the beginning of the next day. There's other ways to do the exchange, but the Intuit service is by far the most popular because it's through our QuickBase servers and it's just really fast. Inventory unit of measure, pricing, again, you have up to 5 price levels total based on the top price, regular price, but it's up to you. You can also change the markdown and the name. Purchasing, here's, no receiving, that's the one I want. So notice I just want to say for purchase order and sales orders or layaways, work orders, the big thing is for these, you take an initial deposit if you're on a sales order. You can require it so the employee can see, oh, I need 10% for that. But also you can change the status, okay, and you can call it something different. Receiving, probably one of the more important checkboxes and preferences. Enter vendor billing info. That's why I was able to enter the bill in QuickBooks from POS. It gave me that option on the voucher. And then sales, there's discounts here. I don't have mine turned on, but if I did, then you can print them on receipts. It would have shown up as an item too. Or you have a pricing manager where you can create like holiday pricing and have it turn off by Monday morning, right? So if it's a 3-day weekend, President's Day, for example. Or I think Columbus Day is coming up, so that you could do it just for Columbus Day, and it can affect only certain items of a vendor, select items, or all items Columbus Day. So you don't have to go in and affect each one. So there's a lot of batch functionality with that. And the pricing manager is under the point of sale menu. Print designer is under the tools menu. See, layaways, okay. So in sales tax, you can do locations as well as tax codes. And you can have multiple tax rates in a location. Okay, and even assign a default location for a store, have a different one at the other store. Also, when I'm on a sale, if a customer is tax exempt, I can override it, or vice versa. So you have the ability to override on a receipt. So more complexity than the desktop. And then, of course, POS collects sales tax, and QuickBooks pays it. And as far as the hardware setup or workstation preferences, it's mostly just, your barcode scanner and cash drawer, things like that. The cash drawer is powered by this receipt printer. It's actually plugged into it. All right, let's talk about security. Security is another important piece, and we'll go to end of day and some reporting. So we made a sale. We received some items. This is kind of the flow of it. You can hold sales receipts if someone's going back and forgot some milk and they have to run back and get it. Oh, that's what I was trying to remember. The convenience store, right? So they can go back and get milk, and then the other person come up. You can ring them out, and then you can unhold the sale that was waiting, so you don't have to create a new receipt for that customer. That's kind of nice. And then, of course, PO'd or item receipt. And let's look at security. So that's a big one. So here's my employee list, and I'm going to edit Isaac here. 10% commission, not bad for a 2-year-old. Track hours worked for this employee. He's in a particular security group. We'll go over security in a second. But these are the default ones: owner, manager, assistant manager, associate. And I'll have him be an assistant manager. First name, last name, address, typical things you'd want, some custom things. Now, and again, the I want to menu, it's like a right-click menu. Okay, and you can export those to Excel just like reports too. Yes. Now, security. This is why I think it's more, it's stronger than any other product we have. You have a lot of different security rights, so I think 100 or so, for typical things that a retail store would need. And they're by groups. And you can actually create your own groups. Notice associate can do much less than assistant manager, manager, owner. And these are default settings, but you could add seasonal employees, summer help, high school students, whatever you want to call the group. And then based on what they can do, figure out high school students, go to financial. Obviously, this is all going to be blank. They can't update QuickBooks. They can't recover anything from QuickBooks, things like that. What about on receipts? I don't want them to override the accept check setting or credit limit. All these things are really important. Do I want them to be able to apply coupons? Maybe. Okay, or edit discounts. I'm not sure editing. Maybe just use the ones I've already created for them. Yes, they can hold receipts. So you have quite a bit within each of these groups. Transfer slips, that's for the stores, multi-store. I can transfer product from one store to another. Okay. Headquarters store will keep track of all the items. It's one item list, one QuickBooks file. But they can all have different quantity at each store. They can see the quantity at the other store for each item. Okay, what do I want to be able to do with inventory? So again, you have a lot of stuff to deal with security, and apply it, and you assign it to the employee, choose their commission, and if you actually send payroll out of QuickBooks or cut payroll out of QuickBooks, this will go to the weekly timesheet if you check off the box to track hours, and you have that preference set. So that has to do with the employees. The end of day, when you're done, again, I have Store Exchange. It's not really configured. I'm not really using it, so you won't see this. But here's the end of day, so I can run either a general Z-out store close or drawer count. Someone might go home for a shift. They're going to do a Z-out drawer count. You do that at any time during the day, several times, and then the Z-out store close. Back up the company data, and then don't worry about the remote stores. That's if you have multi-store turned on. And then you can actually schedule the Store Exchange, by the way. And exchange data with QuickBooks. When I click Start, it's going to go through, these three things. You can choose your location for the backup, too. So that's the end of day, and then, of course, the financial exchange you've seen. You can update QuickBooks at any time, and it is ideal to have QuickBooks installed on POS Workstation 1, which is the server where the POS database file is. Reporting. Let's just go look at the report list. So you have quite a bit of reports. I can look at all reports. So here's my item reports. Item list, inventory valuation, inventory turn. It's not in QuickBooks Financial. That's there. Purchasing reports, employee reports. The dashboard, something also, and these can be exported to Excel as well. If I go to dashboard, this might be for the person in the back, so your manager or store owner. And you have the ability to customize the dashboard and actually add other charts and graphs, so different sales or employee charts. Maybe I want to see best-selling employees or employee commission. I can go ahead and add that. And then, of course, you have payments. Maybe, what are the most important payment methods, most popular payment methods, so then you can decide maybe to favor credit card processing, et cetera. Maybe it's time to go with the merchant service with point of sale based on this chart and graph. So this is typically not something your employees or register people are actually going to be viewing, but definitely I can add and I can create more than one dashboard in order to, see how I'm doing visually with a chart or a graph. And you can zoom in too. It should bring you to a report. Computer hardware, installation, sales over time. So kind of like the company snapshot in QuickBooks, but this has been around a lot longer. We might have taken the company snapshot from here. It's possible. Not sure if that was the decision behind that. So let's go back and explain a few things after the conversion. Let me unplug my barcode scanner. So division of activities after the financial exchange, the first one. Point of sale is going to add and track inventory items, order and receive items, ring up sales and collect sales tax, has its own point of sale reports, and it can add customers and vendors too. It'll send those over to QuickBooks, assuming you've checked that off on the customer record or the preference. QuickBooks handles cost of goods sold and expense. It pays bills and sales tax. You can invoice customers from there, process payroll, financial reporting, banking activities, reconciliation. That stuff's done in QuickBooks. So that's the division of afterwards. And here's kind of a picture of it visually, so you can see what is in point of sale, what's in QuickBooks, and what do they share. So a pretty strict division, particularly around the items and any kind of item activity. Right? They basically share the customers and vendors. Now, payments. Again, I told you I had a couple slides on this because electronic payments now exceed 2/3 of all non-cash payments. So out of every $100 spent by customers, nearly 40 is in a form other than cash or check. So point-of-sale merchant services is what I'm talking about, and the average credit card sale is higher than cash. These are all done by studies, and it all kind of makes sense. Credit and debit card acceptance increases cash flow, faster funding for you, and like I say, if you purchase the hardware that's the credit card, debit card, you can actually give cash back as well. Okay. Here's what it looks like accepting payments with a third-party service, because you'll have a lot of clients that go with our point of sale, but they still want to use their bank's merchant service system. So it's an 8-step process for them. They collect the total from QuickBooks POS. They key the total into the terminal. Wait for the terminal to dial up. Approve the transaction. Print receipt from the terminal. Record credit card payment into QuickBooks point of sale. Print the receipt from point of sale. batch out the terminal, and Z out QuickBooks point of sale through the financial exchange. Okay, and none of that really goes over other than the sales, and stuff. And they just hope it balances. So it could be more mistakes. With accepting payments with Intuit payments or the point of sale for merchant service, you swipe the card, authorize it, print it, and then it's done. The batching and settlement is done automatically for you as a part of the end-of-day process. Sent over to QuickBooks. I don't have it. I don't have POS Merchant Services active. It's very hard for us internally to get a free mass account. And I'm not going to use my own card or anything, but basically I have seen it. And not only do you get the tip line on receipts, but also as part of the end of the day, one of the options there is to, settle the credit cards and send it over to QuickBooks. Okay. Taking payments, so it's a total solution, and a lot of our people, when they get point of sale, they go with the point of sale merchant services, and it's very easy to set it up. End-to-end payroll, again, employees clock in using the QuickBooks point of sale. You can manage your employees. The hours worked by the employee transfer to QuickBooks during the update QuickBooks or the end of day or the sync that you do. And then, of course, you process payroll. And it goes right to the weekly timesheet for that employee. And as far as comparison, then we'll get to multi-store overview, because there is, well, does my client need point of sale basic or do they need point of sale plus? So let me share out my desktop again. And I always like to kind of give a shout out to the Point of Sale Help Center, because it's fabulous. So if I put in basic in here and list the topics, comparison of features, here's the free one, right? Just basically sales and summary amounts go to QuickBooks and credit cards. So you might have clients that actually that's a good fit. Basic, obviously manages up to 20 checkout lanes in a store, receiving of merchandise into inventory, no purchase orders with basic. So track inventory item quantities and COGS, track customer purchases and contact info, integrates with QuickBooks Financial Exchange, just like it does with Pro that I've been in. I've been POS Pro. And then control access with a password by features. However, if you need like employee hours or purchase orders or multiple vendors on items or item pictures or item styles, we didn't even really look at that. The ability to, it's a grid where if the item, think of a shirt or a shoe or something that only differs by size or color, you can add those in a batch to the item list using the style grid, and they all have the same price and things. Okay, or kind of a group, if you will, just differ by an attribute or something. Again, if you need non-posting transactions, sales orders, work orders, multiple vendors per an item, there's quite a bit here that's in Pro. So if you're wondering, and because when you guys get certified for point of sale, if you're going to go there, you actually get a free point of sale Pro, so you can use the Help Center a lot when you're trying to consult, on the call or something like that. And then point of sale Pro allows for multi-store, managing up to 20 stores and transfer product, between the stores. So, and that's a nice segue into multi-store, which might come up for some of your clients, and here's a view of it. So I have two stores. Now remember how we talked about just a single store, where you have a point-of-sale workstation 1, and you have the client stations, and then QuickBooks is installed on the same box as point-of-sale workstation 1. It's the same thing, you just multiply it, right, multi-store. So let's say I have a second store. Now there is a headquarters store, and that's the big store. So that's important to decide which store that is, because that's the only one that's going to exchange with QuickBooks. There's one QuickBooks file in the multi-store world, okay? And there's many stores, and each store has its own point-of-sale database file. So each store has its own point-of-sale workstation 1, and as many client workstations as the registers they need for that store. So each store processes its daily activity and sends the mailbag. Again, there's the other store exchange methods. You could do it by email or something like that, but mailbag is just uses our servers and it's fastest. Sends it to headquarters. Headquarters processes the file in, does its own end of day and financial exchange with QuickBooks, and then makes any changes to the items. Notice that the headquarters is the only one that can actually create purchase orders for the other stores, as well as it does all the inventory processing and adding items, things like that. It maintains the item list, although the other stores obviously sell off of that, and they can have their own quantity of specific items. Because of that, the other stores can create what we call special order items, which aren't really in inventory yet. They can do that, and they can manage their own customers and vendors. they will send the mail bag with maybe some new items that headquarters have not seen before. Headquarters can make the call if those are inventory items. They make it, and then they do the other changes they need, pricing, promotions, Columbus Days coming up, etc. And then they send out the mail bag to all their stores. In this case, I only have 2, but let's say there's 5, to the other 4 stores. The other stores process it in before they open the door the next day. So everybody's on the same page with the item list and the pricing, discounts, things like that. Okay. And then there's some installation setup best practices. Here's store 1 at headquarters, but really you could use this slide for just one store if you want to, because basically that's what you're going to do at each store, except headquarters is where you're going to, that's the one where you're going to exchange with QuickBooks. And then I think that's, yes, and then here's the multi-store. Choosing a headquarters store is just as important as choosing what POS Workstation 1 will be in the one store. So the headquarters store can add, edit, delete items, departments, and vendors. They set or edit item prices. Remote stores can give discounts. Headquarters creates regular purchase orders. Remotes can do for special items, but not for actual items in inventory. Headquarters consolidate data from all stores and run company reports. They define the company-wide preferences. Each transactions, it can enter transactions for other stores, including transfer slips, so transferring product from store to store. And that's the one that exchanges data with QuickBooks accounting software. So headquarters is important, and so is POS Workstation 1. I've only set up 1. I've set up 3 times POS. 1 was multi-store. The other 2 was just a kind of a single store. But it's the best way to learn it is doing, for sure. Okay. Do you guys have any questions? I pretty much, I think that's about all I had. Feel free to unmute yourself and use a chat.
I don't really have any questions at this time. You said that you have a client that uses this POS system that has like a apparel and like a deli?
Yes, Jeff has a coffee shop, not apparel, but coffee shop. Well, they might sell mugs, I don't know, but it's a coffee shop, sandwich shop. And we did the demo, and I was like, well, I don't think this is a good fit for you, but he convinced me because his counter was right next to the kitchen. So he would just like, take the order and then give it back to the cook while the person's waiting or sitting down drinking coffee, and then he would just kind of ring it up.
Okay, because I have a client who they actually sell, it's a clothing store that's connected to a deli.
Yeah.
And it's one business, and so they're looking for a new point of sale system to use, and I was just wondering if that was going to be a good fit for them.
So the apparel would be fine. What about like the deli though? I mean, because like you're not going to build an assembly for the sandwich, right? That's like a turkey, whatever you call the sandwiches. They probably have all different names for their sandwiches that are unique and they have different ingredients. So it's really hard for, I mean, unless you have an item for each. So you're not going to build assemblies for a sandwich because that's just absurd, even though it would work, but still. So maybe you could have items for the ham and turkey and bread and things like that you're going to use, and then you have the ability to do quick pick items where you can add miscellaneous things to the main item, and that could work. But it just depends how busy is it at this shop, like for the food.
It's just kind of a little mom and pop. I mean, it's not.
So then that might work for them then.
Okay.
I mean, if it's not that busy and, they can have the sales receipt up, and what you can do is you can quick pick other items. You can create, I didn't show that, but you can turn on the quick pick functionality in preferences, and what it allows you to do is, let's say I'm selling a guitar, I can add a bunch of accessories quickly from the sales receipt instead of having to go through the item list. So maybe in the quick pick you have pickle, sauerkraut, American cheese, whatever.
Okay.
But to assemble a sandwich, that's maybe my only, concern. But.
Yeah, I was just wondering how that would work. I mean, they don't have things that are super complicated, and if they could set up like the basic sandwich and then just add items to it, that might work out well for them.
Then that would work well, and then of course it'll be great for the apparel.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, that would work.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I don't think we have any other questions right now. You said you're going to be sending a copy of this recording
Yes, thank you. I'll stop the recording now, and I'll make sure that I send that